Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me again after a hiatus of a few years is Sri Rakesh Kaul, famous best-selling author as well as co-founder of Global Kashmiri Pandit Forum. And let us welcome Rakesh ji. It's been a while, Rakesh ji. How are you? It's been a long time. I haven't seen you.
Namaskar, Sree, and namaskar to all of your viewers. All has been well. It's a pleasure to be back and to talk about, matters that are of seminal importance to humanity.
Absolutely, Rakesh ji, and it's been an honor to have you on our forum. Viewers, there's a long association that I've had with Rakesh ji. The first book I wrote, which is #1 Amazon bestseller in mystery, which was Who Painted My Money White. He gave me some very valuable tips about how you write a story. He said, don't be the god, meaning don't include more conversations rather than just trying to tell the whole thing. Don't make it into a newspaper column. And it was invaluable advice. And as some of you who may have read all my books will see, that I have taken this to heart. The first book was already done by that time. I couldn't do much change, but I tried to make it more as a novel, and I feel like I'm improving every time as an author. I don't know, Rakesh, if you've had time to take a look at some of my newer books, but so far I've done 5 fiction books, 1 on American fiction, so there are 6 fiction books, and then of course the old things like NDTV frauds and other stuff. So enough of my tour. Tell us a little bit about your latest book, and then we'll talk about the topic, which is the deep connect between Israel and India. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so my first bestseller was The Last Queen of Kashmir, Kota Rani, and I think that opened the eyes of the world as to what a magnificent civilization Kashmir was before 14th century, and now, of course, there's a whole industry around that. But my second novel that came out a couple of years ago from Penguin anticipated the current discussions on artificial intelligence versus life intelligence. And that novel, Dawn, the Warrior Princess of Kashmir, is actually set in the year 3000. It has done extremely well, and it basically matches Indic thinking about life intelligence, consciousness, and how it will cope and contrast and compete against artificial intelligence, which is essentially, at the end of the day, going to be the ultimate surveillance technology. But it's a fascinating story. You can go read the reviews on Amazon and see for yourself. I invite your viewers to read both books.
Yes, indeed, and do drop in a line on Amazon reviews. We authors, we look for what you think about our books, and we routinely go in and check, and we think, because Rakesh ji is like me, he's also a technopreneur. He's a product of the IITs, and he has done very well here, and he's gone on to his latest ventures. And basically, we like this. This is our passion, being able to connect and tell people some of the aspects and angles. Rakesh ji, first question to you, sir. This is going to be a very interesting, in-depth discussion on a few topics, viewers, and I request you all to do like this video and also to subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so. Rakesh ji, since the time we've had a conversation, we've grown about 8-9 times. We're around 400,000 subscribers now. So I'm hoping that the response for this particular hangout of ours is going to be a resounding one. So back to Israel and India. In your opinion, you're a historian and you're also a fictional author. In your opinion, sir, how far back does this connect with Israel go for India?
Yeah, so, you hear a narrative that people are making that the Israel-India connection is a newfound love affair, that it's a marriage of convenience, and, there are terms thrown around, right-wing this, right-wing that, which is absolute, total nonsense. The civilizational connect between India and the Jewish people is probably one of the oldest civilizational connections known to humanity. And we discover that in a fascinating way. And how we find it, and I've actually written an article a couple of years ago titled The Oneness Healing of India, Oneness Healing Incense of India. And there I've shared the details. Both in the Bible and the Talmud, they describe the holy incense that was burnt, and it had 11 ingredients, and one ingredient was called ketoret. And Moses himself, in his incense oil, where the recipe is known to this day, and the rabbis use it to make that oil, 1/3 of that oil is this substance called ketoret. And ketoret, as the Encyclopedia Britannica tells us, is nothing more or less than costus, kot, which Encyclopedia Britannica tells us came from Kashmir. So here was this ingredient, kot, that was coming all the way from Kashmir, going all the way to Israel, and part of their most sacred ritual. It became part of their incense that they would offer. So more details are in that article. But from that time, 1000 BC, Sree, 1000 BC, all the way up to the 11th century, the Jewish people and Kashmir had a connect, not just through the Silk Road, but even predating the Silk Road. And how do we get the validation on the other bookend? So 11th century, fast forward 2000 years, we have Mahmud of Ghazni invading India, and al-Biruni, the historian, accompanied him. And al-Biruni knew, because he writes, that the bastion of knowledge of India was in Kashmir. And he desperately tried to gain access to come into Kashmir, but the Kashmiris refused him access. And then they diplomatically said, look, it may be much easier for us to send a few Pandits over to where you are, and that way not make themselves militarily vulnerable, but still accommodate his needs. And they sent a few Pandits. But here's the interesting thing. In al-Biruni's book, Sree, he writes that the Kashmiris are very careful who they let in. They only let in people with merit. But amongst those people, they always let 1 or 2 Jews in. Think about it.
Wow. So the literature that I have studied, Rakeshji, there is one instance of a tin ingot being found in what is modern day Haifa, where a shipwreck actually, it was discovered when they were doing some other excavation. In this shipwreck, there was a tin ingot, and this was dated back to 4000 BCE, before Common Era. And the tin ingot had the inscriptions that are very commonly found in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa. Remember that now there is broad understanding that the seals that you see in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa had something to do with what I would call as hallmark certification, 24 karat, 22 karat, 18 karat, 14 karat, that sort of certification. And these are very consistent. So they find that as far back as 4000 BCE, that there was a trade connect between the two countries. And it's amazing that it's not just that. One of the other things, Rakeshji, that I found out was the concept of time. Our time is Kala Chakra.
Yes.
And so it is in Judaism also.
Yes. And so, look, we can get into that with the Sri Yantra and the Star of David. But we have given your viewers some teasers from Kashmir, North India. We've given them some teasers from Central India. Now let's talk about South India. So here is the interesting thing, Sri. Remember Moses's tablets on which the 10 Commandments came? Those two tablets? Yes. Those 2 tablets were carved on sapphire. And at that time, the only known source of sapphire in the world was from the part of India that's now called, not now part of India, but at one time part of India, Sri Lanka. That was the only known source of sapphire. So we have, for several thousand years, at a level of trade, at the level of mystical exchanges of the highest of what we can conceive, the creator of the universe, we have had vigorous exchanges between the Jewish people and the Indic people, and we know that the Indic people saw Jewish people as people of merit.
Very true, very true. Rakesh, let us now skip a few hundreds of years and let's come to the 20th century. And we
Yes.
know that after the 1971 war, Pakistan realized that they cannot defeat India in a war. They had fought 3 wars. The third one was very expensive. They got cut off by 2. They became 2 nations. Bangladesh was born. And then Zia-ul-Haq came along in 6-7 years later. And then he tried to Islamize the whole country. And there you can start seeing some similarities between what Hamas tried to do or has done to Israel, has been doing it for a few years, few decades, I should say. And something similar has been happening between Pakistan and Kashmir. Kind of walk to us through some of those parallels.
Yeah, so this is not commonly understood. A couple of things are not understood. That Pakistan was the greatest enemy of the Palestinian. When Zia-ul-Haq, you mentioned, was with the king of Jordan.
1970,
he slaughtered 25,000 Palestinians.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so let's put that on record that man had Palestinian blood on his hands. Having said that, the whole Kashmir Palestinian nexus, the framework that was attempted to create, was the brainchild of Pakistan. And the training of Hamas was done by Pakistan. And so this particular nexus of Kashmir and Palestine, shockingly, in 1990, when the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits occurred, which was demonstrated so accurately by 𝗣𝗚𝗂𝗍𝗆 𝗢𝙗𝘁 in his movie about that
Kashmir
subject,
Files.
The Kashmir Files, and he brought the truth out. It's not understood that in Pakistan, there was a newspaper that referred to that whole violent uprising as Intifada. So, Intifada, resistance, was used for the first time in Kashmir context as a way to justify the most heinous of crimes. But then, very rapidly after that, this strategy became much more explicit. In 1991, these terrorists kidnapped 6 Westerners, and they were Jews, and they actually killed one of them, one of the Israelis. The others managed to escape. They followed it up in 1995. They kidnapped these Western tourists, their tour guides. One escaped, but one Norwegian Jew, he was killed. The bodies of the others have not been recovered, and unfortunately, but quite standard operating procedure, these terrorists, they had carved on his chest the words Al-Farad. So you can see one of the elements of this so-called resistance is necropenology. For those of your viewers, necropenology means to violate the body after death. It is such a ghoulish act. These are ghouls who will not spare the dead. And that violation of the body after death, we see a consistent pattern all the way to what happened last week with what they did with the bodies of the babies. And too sick to repeat on the show, but that connection did not stop there. Hamas has called for the liberation of Kashmir. And when Gilani died, Hamas sent its condolences. You have yesterday Hizbul chief Salahuddin sitting in Pakistan, equating Kashmir with the Palestine situation. Mehbooba Mufti, who today gives lip service on what Hamas terrorists did to the Israelis, and then quickly switches and says, there's genocide happening of the Hamas people. The same Mehbooba Mufti had opposed and condemned and said that the world was dishonoring Hamas when referring to it as a terrorist organization. This was several years ago. So lots of sympathizers, and the Westerns were willing accomplices. The universities, I can't tell you because we track it. Sree, how many of these universities had created this narrative? 3 words: occupation, victims, resistance. And some of you may remember there was a guy, and there is a guy sitting in India, Sanjay Kak, a Kashmiri, a lapdog of Yasin Malik. He did a movie, a hagiographic movie on Yasin Malik. This renegade, Sanjay Kaul, put out a book, Until My Freedom Has Come, the new intifada in Kashmir. So, Sree, this attempt to create a link between Kashmir and Palestine was the end result of a very deliberate, well thought out, well funded strategy in Pakistan that was executed in Kashmir, executed in the cities of Europe and America, and also in the Middle East.
Thank you, Rakesh. Now let's fast forward to the present. And now if you look at what has happened since 2019, when the Article 370 was abrogated. By the way, we've had some conversations about the ground situation after that. I think you took one trip. If you can touch upon it if you feel free to. But more importantly, now let us take a look at the recent situation. Lone wolf attacks, group wolf attacks. Is there a swarm attack in the offing, and what should the Indian government do? I leave it to you as the last question. Over to you.
Yeah. But individual attacks, group attacks, swarm attacks. Look, absolutely, that is going to be the next model of warfare. And in Kashmir, that was how India lost 1/3 Kashmir. Pakistan pioneered the swarm attack formation when they sent the irregular Kabali into the valley. These guys were not very sophisticated, they didn't have heavy weapons, but they were brutal and they wreaked havoc. And the capacity to put together a team of 1,000 or 1,500, the way we saw Hamas execute, and send it, let's say, to a part of Jammu, that section, they can do absolute havoc to the population, to the country. And so, coupled with cheap drones from Turkey and Iran, they can hold an army at bay. So yes, this thing has got to be a wake-up call for India's military planners, and they have to create new fighting formations that will have the ability to fight with these new tactics.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. And viewers, this is our 2 cents. We've already been, getting a lot of feedback on what are all the things that are happening. Certainly, the ability of a few. By the way, Rakeshji, I don't know if you know this or not. Today, the Capitol Hill was again swarmed. the pro-Palestine demonstrators took over the Capitol Hill, and now nobody is looking at it as an insurrection. Very, very ironic. I see that, this is how this is. This is a very asymmetric warfare. You know what they say, right? Hum kare to chamatkar, tum kare to balatkar. So that's exactly how these people do it. But do you think, in passing, one last line, do you think it is time that the Indian government called a spade and said that Hamas is a terror organization and is not welcome in India?
Look, I don't think it's limited to India. I think the world has to join hands and basically say Hamas is a foreign terror organization, and we will very quickly end up seeing that there will be one camp that will say, yes, it's a terror organization. And then there'll be another that will say, no, it's not. And my prediction to you is that that particular split is going to shape the future of the world for the next 20 years. And it's not just limited to countries. You're going to see that warfare not just in the capitals. You're going to see that in the universities. You're going to see that in the high schools, because now this is going to get very dirty. And the one thing that has happened is that within the liberal, minds, now a shock wave has been created. And people are realizing, my God, how could our universities not just go extreme, but completely lose their morality and not be able to distinguish that what is happening here was savagery, complete savagery, and the world should not tolerate that. So yes, I think India should forcefully no country should do a monkey balancing act. India especially should follow through with the clarity that Prime Minister Modi has displayed, and now as a nation say, Hamas, you're a terror organization. Anybody in India flying the flag of Hamas, speaking in favor of Hamas, you know what? You're breaking the law and you'll be prosecuted.
Thank you so much, Rakesh ji. And as you can see, viewers, there's a lot of heavy heart with which Rakesh ji speaks. He's one of the displaced Kashmiri Pandits. He's been fighting endlessly, tirelessly for their cause. And still miles to go before one can claim that some parity has been restored. Rakesh ji, my heart goes out to you. We have a lot of off-the-record conversations or offline conversations. Yeah. We can't say all those things here, but the most important thing here is that Kashmiri Pandits have been wronged. I will say this thing anywhere and everywhere. And we need to really make sure that at least first make everybody acknowledge it and then see what we can do about it. Some small things here and there, but miles to go. Miles to go. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Namaskar.